In business news, Asian markets are higher today, even as investors wait for a clear result from the US election. There are hopes the prospect of a policy gridlock in Washington will restrain US government spending. Japan's Nikkei is higher by more than 1.4%, just past the 24,000 level and hitting its highest since January. In South Korea, the Kospi is almost up by 2%, led by gains in alternative energy and technology counters. Shares in China and Hong Kong are getting a boost as the US results show a firming lead for Joe Biden. He's seen as favoring a less confrontational approach than President Donald Trump in US-China relations. The Hang Seng is up by more than 2.5%. Singapore's SCI also higher by more than 2%. Banking counters rallying today following their earnings announcements. More on that later. And in Indonesia, it fell into recession for the first time in over 2 decades in the third quarter. GDP shrank 3.5% from last year as the pandemic battered consumption and business activity. The drop is worse than the 3.2% contraction expected in a Bloomberg survey. But it's still better than a 5.3% decline in the second quarter, giving some hope that the contraction is narrowing. Indonesian stocks up by nearly 2% after the announcement, climbing to their highest level in nearly 2 months. The rupiah appreciated by 0.9% against the US dollar, marking its third straight day of gains. To help us shed more light on this, we have Guma Guyadi. He's CEO and founder of Astronacci International. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Guyadi. First up, quite a dismal picture we saw there, a nearly 3.5% on-year fall in the economy. What are some of the worst hit sectors? Were there surprises?
Hi, Eugene. Surprisingly, the GDP number is beyond the consensus and brings Indonesia into the technical recession for now. However, according to the Jakarta Composite Index, as you know, it's really weird that rupiah got appreciated and then index even rose like 2% despite the pandemic, and also now we are looking for 3.49%. So it proves that the market has its own perception that 3.49% is not a bad thing, but instead it's like a recovery from the previous quarter, which is like minus 5%. Then we can see that Indonesia is not bad at all compared to the other countries in Asia. So we can see also in the since March 2020, despite of minus 5% GDP number, the stocks market has started its rally until today. After the end of Jakarta lockdown as well, we see the business starts back to normal and consumer spending increasing. So in my opinion, the worst effect of the pandemic for Indonesia is the capital outflow. Therefore, as you know, our government has made great strategies to anticipate this situation, which is like the omnibus law and also the $47 billion for the corporate tax cut plan.
So you're saying there's some cause for optimism at the moment, but we're also concerned as public health measures to contain the COVID-19 virus hit business activities. How effective do you think the government's stimulus and business support schemes are going to be going forward?
Yeah, the government stimulus now is more concerned into in fighting the foreign direct investment. As you know, we have like big plan for the battery industry in the next year. And we think that if the stimulus and also the omnibus law can attract that foreign direct investment, then we can bring Indonesian GDP back to 5% in 2022, since I believe that the COVID story will be ended at the time. And also Indonesia, we don't really care at all now. If you can see in the real life, people don't really bother with COVID-19 anymore. They just do whatever they want to do. And even I'm now in Bali, and now Bali is starting to recovery and people traveling to have their leisure trip and so on. So I guess next year, everybody will back to normal and they just use the mask and try to live in this new normal situation.
All right, Mr. Guyadi, you also mentioned there's some recovery, but you know, the fact of the matter is infections remain high. What else is needed for the economy to recover?
Yeah, for our country is definitely we have to protect for the capital to not going outside of Indonesia. So if all the foreign investor in the real market or in the stocks market, okay, if they decided to pull out themselves out from Indonesia, that will be a huge problem for us. Because in our manufacturing, our industry as well, we are not 100% recovered from before the coronavirus. But with the omnibus law, I think that will maintaining all the foreign capital stay in our country. And that's the most important key at all.
All right, thank you, Gu Magayari, CEO and founder of Astronacci International.